Hi, this is Donald here, and this is my review of The Interaction of Color by Josef Albers. The Interaction of Color is a art book written in 1963. At the time, it was quite revolutionary in the art world, and to some people controversial, though I think it has stood the test of time. And the concepts it discusses, especially about color and its interaction, is really perception changing, paradigm shifting almost, I'd say. The interaction of color reads almost like lecture notes. It feels like you're in a college classroom almost. This can work to its benefit in some examples, but at the same time it can be a little hard to follow, and clearly the way people spoke and taught back then was different from what people are taught like now. This is quite a hard book to review because it's about color, and talking about color is really quite challenging. And one of the last books I read was this book by Carl Jung, who's notorious for being challenging to read and very deep. And I will unequivocally say that this art book, Interaction of Color, was much more challenging than that book, because trying to describe color and its interaction is just so challenging to do. You really need to have hands-on, even more so than just examples in the book and colored pictures in the book. You really need hands-on practice. So in a sense, this book is a complement to, but not a replacement for, an actual art class on color. Surely being in his classroom at the time of his teaching would have been easier to digest his messages. That being said, the book gives a deep and high-level overview of the interaction of color. Especially if you have some technical background in art, I'm sure you'll get more out of it than just a layman. Perhaps the more you read it, the more you understand. Though I don't know if this applies for everybody. I'll actually admit, at a certain point, this book started to go right over my head. I could not understand what was being said. The concepts were too abstract. I wasn't sure what was being said. It was kind of weird. It's one of the few times in reading that I just have no idea what's being said. In a sense, the author is trying to describe colors, and it's really not the best medium to do so. For that reason, this is a good reference, but maybe not the best teaching tool. The book attempts to teach through lectures accompanied by examples and high quality examples in color. That being said, the examples don't always translate well outside of the book because you really need to do it yourself. And that's going to be a common theme to my review here. Writing-wise, the book is surprisingly philosophical and really takes a deep dive with regard to color and art and its function. It's not merely a technical book, but it has a lot of the author's own beliefs about color. From a technical standpoint, I think there are other avenues that would be more educational with regard to learning colors. But from a philosophical point of view, the messages of the author are timeless, hence why this book is famous. I would be wary about expecting to read this book and becoming fluent or proficient in color theory. It's really not designed for that, and it's high level enough where I think it's easy to get lost. Okay, so here are some quotes that stood out to me in this book. In visual perception, a color is almost never seen as it really is, as it physically is. This fact makes color the most relative medium in art. Therefore, we try to recognize our preferences and our aversions, what colors dominate in our work, what colors, on the other hand, are rejected, disliked, or of no appeal. Usually, a special effort in using disliked colors ends with our falling in love with them. Here we may point to a discovery made by a few contemporary painters, that the increase in amount of a color, not merely in size of canvas, visually reduces distance. As a consequence, it often produces nearness, meaning intimacy and respect. We believe that art education is an essential part of general education including so-called higher learning. We promote, therefore, after a natural and easy, laissez-faire as an initial challenge, an early shift from aimless play to directed study and work, which offers, with a basic training, a continuous excitement of growth. Those are some quotes now. Alright, would I recommend this book? I would recommend this book to those who are curious about art history, especially modern art. Some of those famous artists that do large blocks of color and color paintings, just colors clashing. I think that's the core of this book, how colors impact us. I would also recommend this book to those interested in the philosophy of art, and maybe for those who are just generally curious about color theory and colors and how we perceive colors. I would not recommend this book to those hoping for an easy and fun read about color. This is a hard, challenging book. It's sometimes really hard to understand. It's not easy. I wouldn't even say it's fun. I would also not recommend this book to those who are hoping for a comprehensive art course on color theory, because you're not going to get that. Nor is this book really an efficient way of understanding those kind of concepts. This is more of a reference, not a substitute for actual learning in this and color theory. Lastly, I really wouldn't recommend this book for kids or those not seriously interested in art. I think it's too much of a slog if you don't understand language, and the pictures aren't necessarily super fun and engaging pictures for kids. And that is my review on the interaction of color. I hope you enjoyed the review. Let me know what you think below. Thanks.